Swag here. So I'm going to do a video today on preparing for a YCS or a regional event. Not so much locals, but preparing for a regionals or a YCS because those are the two main things coming up in the next few weeks, months, kind of thing. So the first thing I want to talk about, obviously, is preparing for what you're going to see. Now, the first YCS is YCS Toronto on September 1st, so right on the ban list day, when it becomes legal. And YCS Toronto is notorious for just a bunch of rogue decks and sleeper decks coming out for just one YCS, basically. Things like Gladiator Beasts, Gravekeepers, TG Stun, Karakuris, all these decks that will come back just for one event and then never be heard of again, basically. You're always going to have the same things. You're going to have people playing like Lightsworn stuff or, different variations of rogue stuff and trying out different things, yada, yada, yada. So I'd just like to go over, for example, let's use YCS Toronto as our example today, on things you're going to see. So you're going to see Gravekeepers. You're going to see Gladiator Beasts. You are going to see Chaos Dragons. Believe it or not, you are going to see Chaos Dragons. You're going to see Windups. You're going to see Medulce. You're going to see Prophecy. You're going to see Gear Machina Gadget things. You're going to see TGs. You're going to see a lot of heroes. A lot of heroes and different variations of the deck. You're going to see 6 Samurais. You're going to see Burn. You're going to see Final Countdown. You're going to see Exodia. YCS Toronto has one of the biggest variations of decks that you will possibly see at a YCS. Just because no one knows what's good yet, no one knows what's going on or, what to do kind of thing. So this is where I would be playing things like anti-meta, things with Fossil Dyna, just shuts down things that are going to be known to be there. So Fossil Dyna, Doom Cows, Thunder Kings, just anti-meta stuff. So if I was going to YCS Toronto, I'd be playing some form of anti-meta probably, or be a Frog Monarch build or something like that. Probably Frogs. That's another thing you'll see. You'll see Frogs. Just a bunch of random decks, basically. I barely scratched the surface of decks you'll see. So after you start preparing for this, you make a side deck, obviously, deciding what's going to be in your sideboard, what's going to be good, what's going to hit the most decks, what's going to, benefit you the most. So things like Shadowmere are going to be awesome, just because there's so many dark decks. Black Wings, they just got a second Kalute. Gravekeepers, Dark Worlds, stuff like that. Tons of dark stuff happens. So Shadowmeres are a must. Macrocosmos, Maxi, Valor for the most part, Defissure, things like that. They're all great and potentially could hit more than one deck that you'd be facing. So let's say I was playing Frog Monarchs. Now, people are going to kind of expect Frog Monarchs, but not really, because we don't have that summary card or whatever the hell it's called yet. The one it's a level 6 and special summons itself. So we don't have that thing yet. But we do have things, or Frogs do have a slightly bigger boost. Now that Inzectors are gone, control decks can kind of come back, so you'll see a lot more Frogs running around where they can kind of maneuver themselves to a point where it's good. DD Crow would be a good card But if I was playing Frogs, I'd revert back to long ago when I played Macro Monarchs in my Frog deck. And I would side into Macro, probably, because Macro's going to hit just about everything other than anti-meta, probably, and maybe Gravekeepers. So, have fun. You side in your DD Crows and stuff for my Frogs, and I side in Macro. You have dead cards, and most likely, if I won that first game, I'm going to win the second game because I forced you to make poor decisions when siding. So, side deck cards that can hit multiple decks are a good thing. And I suggest that you pick the most optimal ones, or borrow cards if you don't have them, but get the ones that are going to hit the most decks instead of just siding for one deck. People are going to overside for things like Chain Burn and Exodia when they really don't have to. And they're going to get beat out by something else completely, like Gladiator Beast or something. Okay, so after you've done that, you have to prepare psychologically for these big events. And once again, I'm going to use YCS Toronto as it's going to apply to the most people. So in YCS Toronto, you're going to have, let's say you watch YouTube, you're going to see a lot of the people you see on YouTube there. There's two things that can happen. Either you can be intimidated by these people when you sit down in front of them, or you can just think of them as regular players. They're just players like you. Yes, Jarrell will be there. He went to the World Championships a few weeks ago and did pretty well with Exodia. I doubt he'll be playing Exodia, because everyone expects it. And of course, a good chunk of people will be playing Exodia just because. Then you're going to have, other people. Vexicus will be there, Dan Connell, Underworld 6667 will be there, Draco DMD will be there, tons of people that will be there if you watch YouTube kind of thing. So those people can scare you. You're also going to have a lot of players that you've never seen before, or you just don't know them. And for the most part, what I find when I go to these large events is that it's best not to show too much emotion when playing. So poker faces are amazing. Just psychologically, you need to be prepared for people to act like assholes, to act cocky, sit down and say, "The 2-0 you, bro, it's all good." And just be prepared for that. Don't get psyched out. When I went to my last regionals, that happened to me. I was playing Burn, and it turns out my driver from that day sat down. Shout out to you, Jack, because I'm going to tell the whole world that story. And he had just built, this was when plants were still big, so he was playing plants with, Tengu's glow bulbs, all that good stuff. And what happened is that I actually ended up winning overall with a $10 deck that I bought the day before. I bought Chainburn off my other friend. Shout out to you, Romeo. I don't know any of your channel names. But I had bought the deck the day before, basically. And I ended up 2-0ing him. And I was pretty happy. Or 2-1. 2-1, I think. Yeah, I think he won game 2. But it's a psychological game, really. You just can't be psyched out by that kind of thing, or the expense of somebody else's deck. My computer's gonna die, so I'm gonna have to do this into part 2. So until then, just think about preparing yourself and your deck for the event, and I'll get into more into the next episode.